Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon, he has been regarded or he has been called as the father of English essays and the father of modern English prose. He was also a child of Renaissance because he belongs to the 16th century, and he was also regarded as an essayist of Queen Elizabeth era. And it was a golden time, a Renaissance time, when Francis Bacon belonged to. So Francis Bacon, he was a man of great versatility, as I have told you that he was called father of English essays as well as father of modern prose. So no doubt that he was a man of great versatility, and he was also a true child of Renaissance. Bacon was also a man of action, and a scholar. When we say that he was a scholar, no doubt he was a man of learning. He was a learned man. He was very intelligent, and this kind of intellectuality we always find in his essays. A scholar with an encyclopedic range of mind, because there are a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom in his essays, and he seems to give us a lot of advice. Means he tells us both the advantages and disadvantages, the merit of one thing and the demerit of one thing. So there is a lot of variety, a lot of variation of themes, of subjects, different kinds of knowledge he gives us through his essays, and his essays are also full of wisdom, full of practical advices, and full of the spirit of adventure and enterprise. A practical man. Francis Bacon has been regarded a very practical man, because throughout his essays we never come to know his personal life. First thing, and another thing is that whatever he advises us, he never says that don't tell a lie. He never says. He never says that only, that is, speak the truth. Whatever he says, whatever he preaches or advises, that is very practical. So he is no doubt a practical man with practical wisdom, with practical knowledge, with practical advices and knowledge. He lived in the world of action, because he belongs to which period? He belongs to the Renaissance era, a Renaissance period. He was a man of action, and this is why that he always lived in the world of action, and not in the world of dream, not in the world of vision. Means he was not a romantic essayist who always imagined or whatever he preached that was impractical. No, he was a man of action, and whatever he said, that also belonged to the practical world. So he lived in the world of action, in the world of knowledge, because it was a Renaissance period. And Francis Bacon, he was also a keen observer of man. As I have told you that there are a lot of variation, a lot of different kinds of theme advices in his essays, and then we realize that he had always been a keen observer of man and of the society. He knows very well what is right for a man and what is wrong for a man. So this is why that he is able to give us both kinds of advices, what is wrong, what is right, the advantages of one thing and the disadvantages of the same thing. So he had always been a keen observer of man and of the society, and he never hesitated at the time of writing, at the time of giving advices through his essays. Francis Bacon did not hesitate to give even advice against the accepted ethics. and morality. Accepted ethics and morality, as I have told you, that Francis Bacon even says that if there is no harm, if you are getting a profit to tell a lie, then you must tell. And he even suggests us to be dishonest if there is no harm of some person. Simulation, dissimulation of truth, and these kinds of essays tell that he never hesitated to give even advice that are or that is against the morality. So he believed always in goodness in action. So he speaks in favor and against of one thing, and now it depends on us, on our personal thinking, which advice we follow of Francis Bacon. So practical life and not in theory means whatever he says, that is not a bookish knowledge, a theoretical knowledge, but that can be followed in practical life, means whatever he tells us, that advice is related to our practical life. So Francis Bacon, he was not an idealist. As Francis Bacon, he was a very practical man. He was a man of action, and he never hesitated to give advices even going against the presented morality or presented ethics. So we can say, and we also find in his essays, that he was not an idealist, or simply he was not a moralist or a preacher or a philosopher, but he was a man of, when we say that he was a man of action, that is, he was a man of great practical action or great practical wisdom. Whatever he advised, that was practical advice. So Francis Bacon has been both. He was appreciated and he was also criticized, praised for his advices, but criticized for not following the moral ethics or just going against of the morality. So Francis Bacon, he has been both. He has been praised and he has been condemned. For example, Alexander Pope, he said, he called him wisest, brightest. He praised him, but he also condemned Francis Bacon, calling him the meanest of mankind. Wisest, brightest, but meanest of mankind. So Francis Bacon, he was both. He was praised and he was also condemned. Francis Bacon, if we just go through the life, the biography of Bacon, then we come to know that no doubt he always remained very ambitious. He wanted to go higher and higher in his life. He wanted to get each and everything in his life. He became MP, he became counselor, he became advisor, and whatever he wanted, he got that, he achieved that. But he achieved, that was his mission, that was his purpose, that he has to get each and everything, whether by fair means or foul means. So Francis Bacon, he was excessive ambitious. His sole aim, the only purpose of his life was only to rise higher and higher, to get more and more success. And it doesn't matter that what he has to pay for that, whether he is using fair means or he is using foul means. So this was the ambition of Francis Bacon. I just tell you that it is not wrong, it is not a sin to be ambitious, it is not really a crime or a wrong thing, or you are not going against your soul, against God, if you have this desire to get something in your life, to go higher and higher or to rise higher and higher, is not a sin. A sin is if you use foul means, foul sources, if you go through a wrong way, if you get success, if you get achievement if you fulfill your desire by foul means, that is wrong. So what wrong was with Francis Bacon, that he wanted to get each and everything. He wanted to fulfill his all dreams, his all desires, either by fair or by foul means, and for that he paid also. He had to pay for this. So Francis Bacon, as we have known very well through all these points, that no doubt he was a man of learning. He was very intellectual person. He was learned. He was very intelligent. He was very wise. And throughout his essays, finding different kinds of advices, finding very practical advices, we come to know this fact that he was a very learned man. He was a wise man and intellectual person. And because there are a lot of Latin words, Latin references, this language has been used here and there in his essays. So we can say that he was also a great master of Latin language. But Francis Bacon, he was very cunning, he was very clever, and he always remained very ungrateful. When we say that all these are the shortcomings in the character of Francis Bacon, no doubt. He was very intellectual person, he was a man of learning, and he always preached us, he always gave us good advices, but personally he was not, according to Alexander Pope also, meanest of mankind. He was not a good human being. He was a good essayist, he was a father of modern prose, father of English essays, but personally, as a human being, he was not good. It is supposed to be. Why? Because he was very cunning. He was very cunning, that he was very smart, he was very clever, and he used all the tricks to fulfill his dreams or to achieve whatever he wanted in his life. And whoever helped him, whoever cooperated him, whoever assisted him in his bad days, in his misfortune, even he did never accepted their gratitude. So Francis Bacon has been also regarded as ungrateful, especially to his friends, those friends who always helped him in his miseries, in his bad days, in his misfortune. He never cared of those. So he was supposed to be very mean human being, very mean kind of person, and he was supposed to be a liar, to be dishonest, corrupted, and for that, as I have told you, that he had to pay also. He was charged with bribery, and he was imprisoned too for that. He was ungrateful, he was mean, he was cunning, he was dishonest personally as a human being, and he was even very corrupted. He was an MP, he was a member of parliament, but he was supposed to be very corrupted because he used to take bribery to put up a question of public, of people, that was very crucial question, very crucial demand of public, and he used to take money from people only to put up a question in the parliament. So he was supposed to be corrupted, and of course he was very selfish. Why? Because he thought only and only of himself, not of others. While he was representing his society, he was supposed to help the people, but he never tried to use his power, his authority for people. Whatever he did only for his own self. So all these are the shortcomings in the character of Francis Bacon, and that's why that Alexander Pope has called him the meanest of mankind, that he was cunning, he was ungrateful, he was mean, he was dishonest, he was corrupted, and even he was selfish too. So Francis Bacon, he was also elected a member of parliament, but he was accused of taking gifts from suitors, and for that, when the charge was against him, then he was imprisoned also. His betrayal, his deception of his friend, and even to his benefactor shows selfishness of Bacon, ungratefulness and immorality of Bacon, that he was ungrateful, he was selfish and he was immoral. And when we go through his essays, we can believe that that may be because he advises in a very practical way, and he says that there is no harm in telling lie, there is no harm in thinking of yourself, and there is no harm in simulation and dissimulation. Such kinds of essays can also give a short biography, a short kind of temperament of Francis Bacon. So, all these are the shortcomings in his character. Bacon borrowed the idea because the essay, it was started in France by Montaigne, and Francis Bacon, he borrowed this idea of essay from Montaigne. Montaigne, who was Montaigne? He was a French essayist of his time. Francis Bacon, he was the first essayist in English. So, this is the reason that he has been called as the father of English essay. And through his essays, Bacon proved himself. He was also a great writer of his language, because it was Francis Bacon who provided a clarity to English language. So, he can be called that he was a great writer of his language. And in Bacon's time, English prose suffered from many weaknesses, because there was not a clarity, and the English language was also very difficult to be understood. But it was Francis Bacon who gave a lot of clarity to prose or to English. So, prose suffered from many weaknesses. The language was artificial, the language was ornamental, and the language was poetic, elevated, difficult to understand. But when we go through the diction, the language of Francis Bacon, we come to know that his language is not artificial, it is not so sophisticated, it is not only decorative, and it is really not so difficult to understand. It is so simple that even a common and average reader can understand very well what Francis Bacon wanted to preach or wanted to tell. So, the language of Francis Bacon is very difficult, but it was not before him. So, prose suffered from all these deficiencies. The sentences were long and invalued. The sentences before Francis Bacon, or in his time, it happened that the sentences were too long to understand, and they were also invalued. They used unnecessary figure of speech. The prose writers, they used unnecessary. There was no significance of those kinds of figure of speech, but they used to use them only to make their diction ornamental or decorative. So, only to show artificiality, they used to use the figure of speech without any purpose. But Francis Bacon, he developed a new prose style for his essays, new prose style, and that is why that he has been called the father of modern prose. It was not poetic. The language, the diction, the style which was used by Francis Bacon, that was not poetic. It was very witty, and it was, no doubt, it was impressive. The prose style of Francis Bacon was full of wit, it was witty, it was very impressive, and it was simple to understand. There was no difficulty to understand the language or the diction or the style of Francis Bacon, because it was very simple to understand for a reader. What all Francis Bacon did and how he changed his prose style, or how his style, his diction, his language was different from other prose writers of his era, of his period. Francis Bacon, he divided his long sentences. If first of all, that he didn't like to use long sentences, and if he had to use long sentences, then he divided them into short, clear cut. Okay, that is short, clear cut, that is clauses. What he did, taking the help of punctuation, using hyphen, comma. So he simply used long sentences, but he divided them into short, clear cut clauses to make them short and simple, so that reader could not get any kind of difficulty to understand his sentences or to understand his essays. Bacon also combined his ideas with painted verbal effect. So, it is also a great characteristic of Francis Bacon's prose style that he combined his ideas with painted. We can say that there was a verbal effect. His images are rich and full of poetic imagination. So whatever he presented, whatever image he gave through his essay, that was rich, there was a richness, and there was also a poetic imagination in his essays, because he was a man of learning, he was very intelligent, and he knew very well how to impress, how to express, and how to impress the reader without making his style ornamental. So he was a master of the language, a master of English prose, master of essays, and it happened only because of its simplicity, of his clear use of language, that proved his mastery over English prose. His essays are short, which leave behind an indelible impression on the reader or on our mind, and give us both, give us delight and give us satisfaction. They give us advices, but they also entertain us and they also satisfy us intellectually especially. And his prose has the basic form of the modern English prose. His prose has the basic form of the modern English prose. So this is why that Francis Bacon has been called even as the father of modern English prose. Bacon's essays are full of practical advices for advancement and rise in a world. For what kind of advices he gives us for advancement and rise in a world full of treachery and cunningness. He advises, as I have told you, that he always preferred to give us practical advice. He says that you must behave according to the people in front of you. If people are cunning, if people are full of deception, if people are very clever, then you should not be ordinary, you should not be full of virtues, but you should change yourself according to them. And this is why that he gives us all the advices, so that we may live in such a world that is only full of treachery, deception, cunningness, selfishness, dishonesty, because we must know how to treat, how to deal with these kinds of people in this world. So there is a strong mixture of idealism and reality. That is, there is too much difference between idealism and reality, and the main problem with man is how to adjust with both. That is, practical life and impractical life, reality and idealism or morality. So there is a mixture, there is a blend of both idealism and reality in his essays. His essays are for those young men who aspire to go far and who want power, who are ambitious, who want to do something in their life, who want to get bigger and bigger things. So it can be said that his essays can guide them, can support them, can show them the right path, can show them what they must do in their lives. So most of his essays are for those youngsters who are ambitious, who are very desirous, who aspire to go very far in their lives, and what they need, what they desire, what they dream, they always dream of power, position and material achievement. So, if a young man aspire for all these things, then he must go through the essays of Francis Bacon. Now, according to Hugh Walker, Francis Bacon is the first of English essayists. It was regarded by Hugh Walker that Francis Bacon is the first of English essayists. Now, most important thing is that Francis Bacon, according to Alexander Pope, he was regarded wisest, brightest, but meanest of mankind. So, what was the reason? What does it mean? That he was called the wisest by Pope. Alexander Pope, he was called the wisest because he had written his essays full of wisdom, because there was a lot of wisdom, a lot of intellectuality, a lot of wit in his essays. So, this title has been given to Francis Bacon, that no doubt he was the wisest, full of wisdom his essays were, and he was also called as the brightest. Why this title has been given to Francis Bacon by Alexander Pope? That he was the brightest, no doubt he was the wisest and he was the brightest because he had been an innovator of the prose style, or we can say that he was the father of modern English prose. So, no doubt he was the brightest. So, Pope said very rightly, he appreciated Francis Bacon for his brightness and for his wiseness, but he was also condemned. He was also criticized by Pope because he called him the meanest. No doubt Bacon was wisest of mankind, brightest of mankind, but he was also meanest of mankind. And meanest in which reference? Because he was accused, he was charged with bribery, with taking bribes, and for that he was punished, he was fined, and he was also imprisoned. So, Francis Bacon was called wisest, brightest, but meanest of mankind for his ungratefulness, for his dishonesty, for his selfishness, for using foul means to get each and everything in his life. So, this was complete Francis Bacon.